All right, everybody, let's come to order. We're going to call the meeting into session. I know we got a lot of folks in the room, so we'll try to be as controlled as we can. We have Dr. Eric Hankins with First Baptist Church Fairhope here for the opening prayer. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Let's pray together. Lord, on this solemn date in the life of our country, we pause to remember because it's easy to forget. In the busyness of life, it's easy to forget what matters most. In the scramble to provide, it's easy to forget that you are always taking care of us. When things go right, it's easy to forget who deserves the real credit. And when things go wrong, it's easy to forget that you have a higher purpose. In the midst of our forgetfulness, a day like this, as hard as it is, helps us to remember. We remember that even when evil and hate seem great, goodness and love will ultimately triumph. We remember that all around us, every day, there are men and women who run toward trouble and pain when everyone else is running away. We remember that we live in a country that still shines a beacon of freedom and still remembers that such freedom must always be paid for with sacrifice and courage. For all these things, we're grateful on this day. May these remembered truths light the way for all these who are assembled today for the work of guiding our community's life together in this great land of ours. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, Council, item number 1 on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the August 29th, 2023 regular City Council meeting and the work session.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I've got a motion to approve and a second. Any changes, additions, or deletions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Item number 2 is the mayor's report.
Thank you, Council. Good evening. First, I want to thank Ian Morrison, who was here earlier from the electric department and gave their update on the mutual aid crews that were in Florida. Just want to thank those guys and the sacrifices they make to be away from their families. We know how important mutual aid is to us when we have a storm or a disaster here in Fairhope, and just really appreciate them being willing to go and help out, our neighbors when they have a hurricane. The other thing is remind everybody about coastal cleanup, which is this Saturday. That's from 8 to noon at the pier. And if you have not signed up to participate in coastal cleanup, you can always just show up and they will assign you a location. Also, can't let tonight go by without remembering 9/11 and the terrorist attack on the United States in 2001, and thank the police department for the ceremony that they had this morning. Always a touching ceremony, just a prayer service, and they play taps, and just a lot of folks come out to remember that day and to remember all the people who sacrificed their lives for us that day. And then I have 2 proclamations. I'm not sure if the folks are here who I'm presenting the proclamations to. If you're here, please come up. Oh, good. Oh. Right here. I should have known you're in your gold. That's right. I should have looked for the gold. So we are celebrating Childhood Cancer Awareness Month this month, and this says, whereas childhood cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children, and whereas 46 children per day are diagnosed with cancer in the United States, and there are approximately 40,000 children on active treatment at any given time. Whereas the National Cancer Institute recognizes the unique research needs of childhood cancer and the associated need for increased funding to carry this out. And whereas in the last 10 years, only 4 new drugs have been approved by the FDA to specifically treat childhood cancer. And whereas researchers and healthcare professionals work diligently, dedicating their expertise to treat and cure children with cancer, and it is vital to those affected by childhood cancer to have access to quality, affordable care, and that research of all forms of childhood cancer continues to be supported. Whereas whereas too many children are affected by this deadly disease, and more must be done to raise awareness and find a cure. Now, therefore, I, Sherry Sullivan, as Mayor of Fairhope, do hereby proclaim September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Fairhope, and recognize the determination and bravery in which these children fight their battles against cancer, and they should be recognized and commended by all. Thank y'all for being here. I also have a second proclamation, and this is also for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, but I think one was on behalf of the Berry Foundation? Berry Strong Foundation. Right, the Berry Strong Foundation, and the second one was on behalf of Joy of Life on the Gulf Coast. So we appreciate y'all being here, and I'm happy to present these proclamations to you. Thank you.
I did just want to take a minute to thank you so much, Mayor and the City Council, for once again proclaiming September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I just did want to just take a few minutes to share some things. My name is Jennifer Berry. I'm with the Berry Strong Foundation. We are a 100% volunteer-driven local nonprofit from Spanish Fort, named in memory of my 16-year-old daughter, Caroline, and her brave fight with childhood cancer. She passed away on Thanksgiving morning of 2018, and it's because of her bravery that we do what we do. It was her dream to make everyone aware that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and that gold is the color. So that's why we do what we do, and it is so very important. To see, when people see the gold and the gold bows, a lot of times we get those questions, what is that? And it just opens up a great conversation, to share that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And then finally, I just wanted to say, of course, I've got this great captive audience today, so I can just maybe share some facts that childhood cancer is the #1 cause of death by disease in children in the U.S. Worldwide, every 2 minutes, a child is diagnosed with cancer, and 1 in 5 of those diagnosed will not survive. So I do think that those are very powerful facts. So thank you so much for your time, and once again for helping us proclaim September Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. All right, guys. Next up is public participation. Remember, this is for agenda items only. Also, a reminder, there is a second public participation for non-agenda items at the end of the agenda. So if you have something on items 5 through 16, now is your opportunity to speak. You've got 3 minutes. All right, seeing no one, I will, please.
I don't even really need the microphone. I just wanted to say thank you for the litter catchment. It's a wonderful idea and a wonderful use of public funds.
Thank you. It's,
You're right.
yeah, thank you. It's not often that we get any kind of positivity towards us, so
We were shocked.
nice to hear it. Thank you very much. All right, guys, I will close public participation and go to council comments. Councilman Burrell.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I haven't had any committee meetings since our last council meeting, but great to see everybody out tonight participating. It's your right to participate, so I'm glad to see a big crowd here. I have a suspicion of what everybody's here for, so I look forward to hearing from several of you. And also I want to thank the pastor that mentioned the remembrance of the victims of 9/11 and others that mentioned them. I had a family member and a close friend, both deceased on that day. So it's a tough day. I appreciate y'all remembering.
Corey?
Yes, I just want to welcome everybody. I wish I would come out more often like this. This is nice. It's good to see you guys, and I'm going to piggyback on Jack as far as 9/11. Today is a significant day for us historically, so my prayers and best wishes go out to those families that suffered from this day. That's all I have.
Jimmy?
Yeah, just, I guess also on the 9/11 thoughts, since we're actually meeting on 9/11 this time, just certainly would say to those younger folks in the room, anyone who was of age at that time, we'll never forget where we were, what we were doing at that moment. But one thing that really stands out to me, and I'm looking across the room and I see different people I know through the community, probably with different opinions on what y'all are here to speak about later. And just remember that one of the great things about being in America is the freedom to have a different opinion than somebody. That doesn't mean we can't still be friends, but just keep that in mind when you are up here and speaking later tonight on public participation.
Well, I can repeat what everybody said, but in the interest of time, no comment.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman Boone. I don't have any comment either. I think it's all been said and said very well so far, so we'll go right into item number 5. Item number 5 is final adoption, an ordinance to require annexation for property outside the city limits but contiguous to the city limits for new connection to the city of Fairhope's water system. And council, I know last time we discussed this at length, and there were some uncertainties with it, and really on not just how it was written, but what we as a council, how we wanted to move forward that and what we wanted that to look like. I'm not sure we have answers to all of the questions that we asked last time, so I'm not sure there's that anything's changed in a way for us to move forward with this tonight.
Right.
And so I would consider a motion to table this again until we are able to investigate all the things that we talked about 2 weeks ago, and get a better idea of exactly how we want to move forward with this, if in fact we do.
I'll move to table it.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, council, I do have a motion and a second on to table. Any further discussion?
What is the time frame if we do table? What's kind of the?
We got another, it'll come back in 2 weeks. What's the, I mean, can you table it in perpetuity?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, in perpetuity. Yes. Yeah.
Not that we want to do that, but just making sure we can. All right.
Down the vine.
I would just ask Council President to just make sure we're all ready to vote before it comes on the agenda,
Right.
so we don't have to vote to table it again.
Since we've tabled it, will it be, is it automatically on the next agenda if we table it?
No.
Whenever you want to put it back on.
So Jack's right, I can take it off? Thank you, Councilman Burrell. All right. So I've got a motion and a second to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 6 is an ordinance, amending ordinance number 1510, known as the Personnel Rules, Policies, and Procedures Ordinance, Section 6, Employee Benefits, adding Section 6.11, incentives for recruiting new employees.
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Thank you, Councilman Conyers. Guys, this is something we discussed in work session last meeting as a recruiting incentive for current city employees. Mayor, if you want to just briefly describe this again.
This was actually, I guess, a thought from Councilman Burrell in regards to a benefit that we could give to current employees to help recruit employees to the city of Fairhope. As y'all know, we have on average this year probably about 30 vacancies. So in order, I think our employees, current employees, are probably the best advocate we have. So this will allow them to collect $500 for recruiting an employee who stays at least a year. So they'll receive $250 at 6 months and $250 at a year. And that'll be in a one-time payout in December. And again, it's an opportunity too for our current employees to mentor new employees and to kind of follow that employee through that first year, make sure they stay, kind of be there alongside of them. So really excited to be able to do this. And again, it's just another benefit we can add to the employees and hopefully help us recruit some new employees.
All right, council. The ordinance has been introduced. Any discussion from council on item 6? All right.
Nope.
I'd like to move to adopt the ordinance number 1510, the amending ordinance number 1510, known as the Personnel Rules, Policies, and Procedures Ordinance on Section 6,
Okay.
Employee Benefits.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Lisa, would this not typically lay over 2 weeks
Yes.
as an ordinance?
No, is you-
Are you
Is
asking?
is
for-
your motion for
Are you
immediate
waiting for immediate
consideration?
consideration?
Yeah, we need to get those people out there recruiting them. Now, let's just, I'm going to suspend with the rules and call a motion for immediate consideration.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion for immediate consideration. Councilman Martin, are you second?
I'll second that. That's
All
not a
right.
problem.
All right.
Place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5.
Actually,
I know.
Flip-flop that.
sorry.
Council President. Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion for immediate consideration. That's passed.
gotta vote
Now
on
I will entertain a motion for
I'll move
final
for final
adoption.
adoption.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
All right, folks, get busy.
All right, guys, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then you can
You
call
gotta
it.
call
sorry.
them.
Place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
Council President,
Aye.
place 5.
All right, motion carries. All right, item 7 is a resolution that the city council authorizes acceptance of the ADEM subaward agreement for the city of Fairhope Go Mesa litter trap project in the amount of $166,725 with no city match required, and authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to sign all necessary grant documents on behalf of the city.
Second.
All right, council, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just to reiterate, that
Yeah.
was 15 traps and 3 years of maintenance and clearing out. Sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, this is a good thing. This helps keep our waters clean, so this is a good thing. This is different from the booms that we were putting out, guys, at Winn-Dixie. This is a little bit different. This goes near the drains, so.
I did wonder that. Thank you.
Yeah, this is different, just to clarify.
Okay. All right, council, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 8 is a resolution that the city council authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute a second-year extension of the Maynard Cooper and Gale PC engagement letter agreement for the city of Fairhope from October 2023 to September 2024 with a retainer fee of $8,000 per month and a not-to-exceed of $96,000.
Make a motion, we
Move
approve.
to execute the extension.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, when you enter into these engagements, you don't know how they're going to turn out. And I feel like if you're at a council meeting for the first time, you may look at that and say, that's a lot of money. But this is one that has really paid dividends for us. I believe the council and mayor would agree with that. We've received a lot of grants with their assistance.
Yeah, there's a lot of money out there if you know where to go find it, and having somebody to help us navigate that has helped for sure. And it is something. I was asked this on the radio this morning: is it worth it? And it has been for this first year, and we'll continue to monitor it year by year to make sure it continues to be worth it.
Yeah, and Jack, he may be able to get us $100 million.
We're going to need it for your idea.
All right, guys, we have a motion and a second. Without any further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 9 is a resolution that Mayor Sherry Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a contract for extension number 1 of lease Fairhope Soccer concession stand at the soccer complex with Blast Soccer Club, Inc. Per the terms and conditions of the original contract, the lease is for $417 per month paid to the city of Fairhope.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think the last time we had this many people in the room, it was probably about soccer, wasn't it?
I think
So,
it probably was.
I'm so glad y'all are not here about soccer tonight.
Amen.
All right, guys, I've got a motion and a second. Without any further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 10 is a resolution to award bid for Magnolia Avenue Underground Electric Part 1 to UTEC Construction, Inc., with a total bid proposal not to exceed $295,380.68.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
We discussed this during the work session, guys. If you think we're moving kind of fast, we've had these discussions previous to the meeting.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 10 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves.
11.
I'm sorry, 11. Resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the procurement of a fitness court system to be installed on the west end of Mike Ford Tennis Center from National Fitness Campaign LP as sole source supplier. Mayor, you want to touch
Yeah.
on this real quick since we didn't talk about it
We
in work
didn't talk
session?
about it, yeah.
Oh, well, this is a fit court, and it's a grant through Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so we had a gentleman from the Rotary Club who actually approached us about applying for the grant, which he did. He received the grant. He also, on behalf of the city, he also received a grant from Single Tax and from the Rotary Club in the amount of $40,000. So we have a total of $120,000 towards this project. I think the challenge now is going to be the location, to where to put it. But one reason why we're going ahead and executing this before the new budget, because it is in the budget, the upcoming budget, is because somebody needs to take ownership of the equipment, and so it needs to be delivered somewhere. So that's why this is on the agenda right now.
Council President, can I add on to that discussion? So I agree with, accepting the grant and approving the procurement, but I'm not exactly sure that I want it to go at the west end of the Mike Ford Tennis Center. And the reason for that is a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't know how much it'll be utilized there. It may be utilized a lot, but the mayor told me we've been approached by another entity in the city about sharing in the cost of the land at the bottom of the hill near the fountain, the old restaurant down there, Mr. Pope owns. And I would think that if this fitness equipment was put in that location, that it would be, heavily utilized. And that would probably make me much more in favor of getting that land for the city, especially if we get it at half the asking price, because we have a partner that would maybe pay for the other half. And I would be more in favor of putting the equipment there, where I know it would be heavily used. I think it would be a focal point for people to gather and exercise.
When this first came up on the rec board, the conversation was for it to go on the beach. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Somewhere on
there.
On the beach, but we never really identified that. And a part of, the rec board's not recommending was because of the placement. They didn't believe in the placement.
Right.
That was one of the issues. But I agree, Jack. I think that would be more of a sweet spot. I think it kind of design-wise, it fits that area as far as health and fitness, with people coming in. It just gives another aspect to our pier, So I tend to agree with that.
And it doesn't interfere with the current plans for that, because that land was never being considered for improvement.
Yeah. And then you can add more pickleball courts at the Mike Ford Center. Right?
I guess the grant's not.
I think the grant's
The
not,
grant's
I mean.
not tied in.
Yeah,
to
the
that.
grant's not
No,
tied
it's
in.
not. Great question.
To where it is.
Could I ask you to consider amending the resolution to say approves the procurement to be installed on the western Mike Ford Tennis Center or other location as decided by the city council?
I will be happy to consider that if you make a motion to
I'll
amend.
make a motion to amend the resolution to state that.
All right, we got a motion and a second to amend as it relates to location.
Yes.
So I've got a motion and a second to amend it as to location. Do I have any other discussion? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
I need a motion to adopt the amended resolution.
All right.
So moved.
All right, I've got a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 12 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the procurement of a new replacement roof for the Quail Creek Maintenance Barn from Roof Doctors with a not-to-exceed amount of $49,000.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
The previous meeting, we thought this was not in the budget. This is a budgeted item.
Well, a correction.
It's not a budgeted item?
It is a budgeted item. It was intended to be in there. We just can't find it right now, but we will make sure it's in there.
Killing me. I'm trusting. Okay.
We will make sure it's in there.
I told you, wasn't it?
No, well, they said that they was in
Which I'm
three
okay
of them.
with if it was being.
It was intended to be in there. It's just a clerical mistake.
Yeah, well, it wasn't in
intended to be
there 2 weeks ago.
It was
I know
not.
for a
It
fact.
was not.
But
It's never been in the
You
23
were a fine
budget.
person,
The
Mayor, for
intended,
admitting
it was
that.
intended to be in
Yeah.
the 24 budget, yes.
Hey,
Okay,
I'm human.
but-
We
but-
make mistakes.
Yep, you guys are seeing how the
But it
sausage
is
is made
budgeted.
right now.
I'm
But
sorry.
it is budgeted.
It is going
will
to
I just
be
wanna
put that on the
budgeted.
It will be in
It is going to
24.
be budgeted.
Correct.
It was
That's-
intended to be in the budget, the upcoming budget.
Yeah, there's three of us at one time trying to put stuff in.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, guys.
All right.
We're not trying to be dishonest.
I'm going to move to approve this resolution on the mayor's, Tim's good word that it was intended to be in the budget. Although I told him it wasn't in the budget.
And then we have
It wasn't
another
the budget.
$1 million
I
that
mean,
we'd like
I
to
thought they
approve tonight,
added
too.
it. You know, I thought they would have, since we talked about it so heavily last week that it wasn't in the budget, I was trusting, like, they added that in the budget. I mean,
All right.
It was intended to be.
All right,
God
guys,
bless
we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
none.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 13 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the procurement of FMLA administrative services for the Human Resources Department from American United Life Insurance Company with a not-to-exceed annual amount of $15,646.20 and authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right.
Thank y'all for the explanation in the work session.
Sure. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 14 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the selection of PFM Financial Advisors LLC for professional consulting services as financial advisor to develop a finance plan with a not-to-exceed amount of $15,000, and hereby authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute contract and is exempt from formal bidding per Code of Alabama 1975, Section 411651A3.
Make a motion, we approve the resolution?
Second, but I wonder if I may, Council President. So, last week, we really didn't know, I was a little bit confused. I know we asked Kim to go out and get some help, but I was confused on all of what they had as far as under the umbrella. But, I still like a good deal. So this is not a good deal right now, as far as what we get. If we do the 15,000, I appreciate y'all trying to do that, but if we're going to do it, let's make it a good deal. So, the original offer was $20,000 for a year, and with this, you only get $15,000 and you don't get the full year.
I'm laughing because we
So,
had this very discussion
you did.
last week with Councilman Martin.
Well, at that point, I didn't know what it was, and it was way more than what I was, what I thought we were looking for, and so I didn't understand, and I just didn't want to just nearly spend $20,000. So here I am. I'm man enough to.
I like it. I appreciate it.
I'm man enough to do it in public. I have broad shoulders. But the 15 is not a good deal. It was $20,000 for a year. Kim, if you need that service, I'd rather you spend the $5,000 extra to get the full services for a year on a yearly basis. This is not a rollover type contract. So if you guys, council, if you don't mind, if I amend that to do the $20,000 as far as being a good deal for the year and the services that come with that year.
I will be happy to entertain a motion to amend.
All right.
And I'll second a motion to amend.
All right, council, we have a motion to amend item number 14 to change it from a not to exceed of $15,000 to a retainer of not to exceed $20,000.
Yes.
I've got a motion and a second to amend. Council, any further discussion?
I'm going to vote to amend because I think that's a better deal, but I may vote against the final adoption of this because I don't know how I feel about that.
All right. All right, so I have a motion and a second to amend, changing it 15 to 20,000. All those in favor of amending, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, now I will entertain a motion for final adoption of the resolution for $20,000 to PFM for a year-long retainer for their services.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second for final adoption. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Council President, I just, I'm just don't know, I'm in favor. This is the smallest expenditure on the agenda, but I just don't know if we need it. Councilman Boone in the work session mentioned putting out an RFP for rates, and it would be up for a line of credit, and I think that's what we need to do. And as it becomes necessary to spend money, we go into that line of credit for these infrastructure projects. And I know they may do it a little bit more than that. I don't think it's that complicated. I think we got enough brain power in the city to do that without having to hire a consultant and spend $20,000. I'd like to see it go towards Corey's study of what to do with the affluent.
Well, really,
All
I
right,
think
got
all
it.
of this has to do with trying to get Kim a way to get some money. And we didn't do it. She get this group to do it. Now we are all talking about, let's just go ahead and get this RFQ. So I don't think it's needed as far as, all Kim just, she don't care who does it. She just needs a direction to go in to pay these bills. And I think the direction going is this RFQ for a line of credit.
Well, I'll just throw out there I think we can certainly got the capability of issuing an RFQ. My understanding is that, I think we've got some financial minds on here that would want to drill down and double check what somebody presents anyways to make sure we're getting accurate info. But my thought or understanding is that they would be drilling down a little more detailed and analyzing the kind of the sources, the uses, the cash flow to determine what is the actual amount that we need to borrow. I mean, I think Kim's done a great job on the initial budget presentation, but my guess is that they're going to drill down more specifically and say, you're going to need exactly this much this time, and this much by this date, and this much by this date. I mean, we can put out an RFQ, and certainly we don't need somebody to even help us evaluate probably which rate and terms the better option. We can figure all that out. So am I correct at all in my thinking, Kim?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just for the room, obviously, we have been overhauling infrastructure for the last 6-7 years, gas, electric, water, wastewater, and that's expensive. And the way we've done that over these last 6-7 years is through cash reserves at each of those utilities. Well, we're getting to the point where the upgrades are starting to overspend what we have in those cash reserves, and we've got bigger plans in the future of continuing these upgrades. So the idea and the concern is, how do we best pace that spending out? And this is a group that we've are considering at least seeking help from to help us plan out that financial outlay of the next 20 to 25 million in utility infrastructure upgrades.
And the extra 5,000 that Councilman Martin was willing to suggest amending to, I mean, that basically means you can call them at any time for any project throughout the year. Is that
Yeah.
accurate? So even if we don't need them I think we do need them on this, but even if you don't get your money worth on this project, you could use them for other quotes or other calculations.
Yes, and just to be able, if I come up with, and y'all want to do some, look at some capital 5-year planning in the general government. We want to look at a arts center or whatever. There's some other projects that I could lay out for them to be able to put out some 5-year planning for us to look at. Those are the kind of things that are some, other projects that they would be able to do for us
Yeah.
as needed.
And it's an additional help,
Yes.
and another set of eyes on what you're doing as well, as far as the load that you have right now in the county department.
Yes.
It's a lot going on, so I'd rather get it right.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right, council, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, motion passes. Item number 15 is a resolution that the city council approves the selection of O'Donnell and Associates, Inc. to professional Hydrogeological Services for the development of a deep well at Fairhope Wellfield Number 1, and hereby authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute a contract with an estimated amount of $23,500.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Mayor, real quick, what's the timeline on this, if I may? I know a lot of people in the community were asking that question to me.
Yeah. The reason we have it on the agenda tonight is because we need to get a survey done and get some other stuff done. He'll start pretty quickly. Yeah, this is just the first phase of getting all these wells in place.
Okay.
The second phase, I should say, because we're
Second
already
phase.
building one well.
What does that total process look like, just in general? Even, so say everything goes well hydrologically and they say, oh, this is the perfect place. What's that process of getting those wells in the ground, time-wise?
So,
Approximation, we just know.
well, approximately, we're hoping they would be in, the timeline we have right now, y'all still have to approve some engineering costs and stuff, but what the timeline looks like is we could technically have the well that we have being built right now on County Road 33, well 3, we could have that one in place, plus the test well could be turned into a production well, plus this would be an additional well. So all that could be completed technically by June of next year if everything falls into place. Mhm.
Okay, very good.
All right, council, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 16 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the procurement of lighting for the Quail Creek Pickleball Courts for the Recreation Department from Musco Sport Lighting LLC, and the equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell contract, which has been nationally bid, and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost will be $37,250.
Make a motion, we approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
A couple of quick questions. How late will these stay open with the lights?
We would probably handle it the same way we do the Mike Ford Tennis Center. They would be till 10 o'clock, which
10
is when the noise ordinance, we kind of coincided with the noise
Do we
ordinance.
have to have a staff member out there until 10 o'clock?
We actually, in the upcoming budget, have a proposed part-time staff that would be working at the golf course past 8 o'clock when the golf course closes, depending on the lighting, depending on time of day, or time of year, I should say. We have a part-time employee who would stay out there to leave the restrooms open, and then they would make sure the lights go off too, but they'll be on timer. All
That's
these
right.
are handled by apps, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do we have a way to control that? Should be a way to control that so that
You can-
nobody
you-
can cut the lights on.
No,
the
you
back.
control it all
You
by your
control
phone.
by a phone, it's an app, it's digital, that's why we did with the parks and everything, that's perfect.
I hear that a lot, but then I drive by empty fields with lights on.
But those are not new.
Yeah, those are not the new
Those are not
ones.
new. The new ones, that's why we're doing what we're doing now, because you're right, we do have that problem.
All right, council, I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. All right, guys, thank you for bearing with us. Next up, item 17, which is public participation for non-agenda items.
3 minutes.
I'm guessing we have some people that would like to speak. All right, sure. Please state your name and address for the record, and you've got 3 minutes.
My name is Brian Dassinger, and first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for the work that you do for the city of Fairhope. I know that y'all are true public servants, and myself and the rest of the Fairhope residents really appreciate the work that y'all do. I am here in representation of Faith Family Freedom Coalition of Baldwin County. We have discovered an issue in the Fairhope Public Library that we want to bring to your attention. We found several books shelved at the library in the youth teen section that we feel are inappropriate to market to minors. Children under the age of 18 are still in a developing stage with their minds, and many of the books that are contained in the library have really little to no redeeming benefits. We fear that the impact of these books to young adults and juveniles may result in mental health issues and the unnecessary loss of innocence. I've read several excerpts from these books, and they're basically pornographic in nature. I'm not going to read any excerpts right now, but they describe sexual content between children and children, between children and adults. There's a depiction of the rape of children by adults, and there's even examples of bestiality in some of these books. Many of them use language that would really make a sailor blush. First of all, I want to say there's rumors going around that our group is interested in banning books. We are not interested in banning books. We believe in the U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. We believe that adults should be able to read these books if they want to. However, the books that we've found, we do not believe belong in the teen section of our Fairhope Library. Our group is also concerned about the library board's choice of the teen librarian, a woman named Allison Cooper Russell. In reviewing her Facebook page, we found posts supporting mandatory masking, the LGBTQ movement, Black Lives Matter, which has been exposed as one of the biggest frauds ever perpetrated on the American public, pro-abortion, and other Marxist ideologies. Her views do not represent the ideals of the majority of Fairhope residents, and we would like the library board to strongly consider replacing her with someone who is more representative of the family values that most of our residents encompass. We are asking the Fairhope City Council and the library board.
Hey guys, I'm running the meeting. I will call time. Please finish your statement.
We are asking the city council and the Fairhope Library Board to clean up our library.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Carol Wilson, 489 Bartlett Avenue, Fairhope, Alabama. I do want to mention a memorial to one of my colleagues at American Airlines. I'm a retired American Airline flight attendant. Her name was Betty Ong. She was the first responder. She called the ground and let them know that her flight, American Airlines Flight 11, was being hijacked. The ground did not understand what was going on, why an airplane that was bound for LA was ending up on its way to New York City. So in memory of Betty Ong, who was declared a hero because of her actions, we remember her this day, and condolences to her family. Mayor and City Council, I sought...
God bless you.
I sought to resolve this issue internally with our local library, and respectfully, I was once upon a time a library trustee here at Fairhope. I am here to provide you with the experience that led me here. I observed at the Foley Library books that were being displayed in the teen and children's section that caused me concern. I checked out several books from the library and reviewed them myself. I then resourced an online book review, booklooks.org, and found these books had content warnings posted. The warnings were from child guidance to aberrant content. I then visited our local library in the teen section and browsed and checked out several books that seemed to be of concern to me. Following that, I filed a reconsideration form on several books. The director responded respectfully that each book had to be fully read and understood so that I may understand the context of the content and the language that was being used, and then file a reconsideration form on each of the books. My follow-up question to the library director was if staff read the books thoroughly before purchasing. The response was no, that staff reviews a book using publishers and other resources, just the same process that I did. My consideration in moving forward to read these books was one, I have no absolute interest in reading smut. If I subjected myself to read the entire content of the book and filed a reconsideration form, the request to relocate the book to the adult section would more than likely be denied based upon the library policy of diversity, equity, and inclusion. You may hear that the effort underway is to relocate books that contain what may be obscene content to the adult section of the library is censorship and book banning. It is not. This effort is asking our librarians to relocate books that have explicit sexual content and material that may be considered obscene according to federal law and should not be available to teens and children, whether intended or unintended. I'm at the end of my comments. I'm at your pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Please.
you.
Thank you.
Shall I continue?
No, that's.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
I'm submitting this for your review.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ann Johnson, 359 South Church Street. I'm currently serving as the Fairhope Library Board of Trustees Chair. For over 120 years, the Fairhope Library has had a mission of bringing a wide variety of resources to our community. In a typical year, we have no, as in zero, or maybe one request to reconsider a book purchase, and we have a process for that. In the last 3 weeks, we've had 3 requests, each with a book list totaling some 55 books. This kind of feels like a coordinated and targeted attack on the library. Many of these books are for young adults, and the request is to move them from the teen section to the adult section or otherwise sequester them in the library, thus rendering them inaccessible to their primary audience. This is a form of censorship. There are young people in our community who may be struggling with their identity, with the teen years, who may not have a support system at home or at school or at their church, who may be being bullied or even suicidal. And we may have books in the library that can help get them through a difficult period. No one person or group has the right to dictate what books and information others have access to. This is a form of censorship. The selection of materials in the library is an inclusive process. Our mission is to provide a diversity of points of view and subject matter. Censorship is an exclusive process where individuals or groups seek to deny access and suppress ideas and information they find objectionable or even dangerous. The Library Board is unanimous in supporting the right to read for all of Fairhope citizens. Thank you.
My name is Randall Wright. I live at 137 Stratford Street here in Fairhope. It is my privilege to be president of the Friends of the Fairhope Library. And these are things that I believe. Books on controversial and challenging topics create bridges for difficult conversations with parents and trusted adults like the librarians at our library. Books that engage readers with relevant and authentic stories with characters they can identify with benefit the reader and the community. Efforts to remove or reposition books that one person does not like cannot be approved. Each of us has the right to not read a book we personally find objectionable. And as a parent, I had the right to make those decisions for my daughters when they were young. That was my choice. But my decisions and choices cannot and should not be forced on another parent. For over 20 years, the Fairhope Library has had an established procedure for book reconsideration. Anyone who objects to a book may complete the form for the book, and the book will be reviewed. It is important that we remember that the presence of any particular material in the library's collection does not mean the staff endorses the ideas expressed in the material. The library is simply doing its job as a neutral provider of information from all points of view supporting the First Amendment right of intellectual freedom. This is one thing I know. When we censor, we discourage open discussion instead of building the capacity to think for ourselves. And if the democracy this country was founded on is to survive, it must develop citizens who can think for themselves. Thank you.
I'm Charles Wilson, 489 Bartlett Avenue. That was my wife, Carol, that spoke. I had not planned to speak today until I saw the Facebook ad that said the cleanup crew was coming today to ban CRT and to ban LGBTQ books. That is a falsehood that was promoted online, Facebook, by a Fairhope Public Library employee saying, I am an employee of the library. In fact, she is in the teen section. I think it's inappropriate, and I think the librarian, unless they approved her comments, should address that. So it made me mad because that's not why we're here. We're here to say there is material in 13 libraries in this county that if you are a parent, how many of you are parents? You would be ashamed to hand that book to your child and say, read this. And you would too, man. You'd be ashamed. Because it's a lot of folks like smut and pornographic. It's a big industry, okay? Go read the book, okay? I've looked at over 50 of them, and gentlemen and mayor, sad to say, but we need to move that material. We're not about banning books. I'm against that. The library and the church are the two most important organizations in a community. And the library is not a place for smut for children. Please consider putting it out of their access. If the parent wants to go check it out and take it home with them, great. But don't let the children see it. Thank you.
I couldn't leave aside the opportunity to talk about dishonesty and falsehood. One thing that I want, my name's Dev Wakely, by the way, 8856 Lakeview Drive. One thing that I want to do is to sort of set the tone for what you're hearing here. And I was going to come up here and talk about transcendentalists and how this was an anti-slavery book that was largely banned for being obscene, smut back in the day. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is address what some of the folks in front of me have already said. What you've heard is that they're not here to ban books. That's what they tell you now. But you've also heard some other words that are very concerning from these people. And what you hear is that, from Mr. Dassinger, these books have little to no value. And you hear that these books are obscene under federal law. Both of those things are, of course, false. But what they are is the precursors to the real book bans, what these folks are setting up in the long run. The legal standards for obscenity and pornography are pretty well set. They're not set in great legal history, but as an attorney myself, like Mr. Dassinger is, I know what those words mean, and you should too. And what they mean is that the people who say that these works are without societal value or merit and obscene are coming for those books, even if they're not doing it right now. They're coming after them. They're coming after the people who were depicted in those works. And they will not stop unless you continue to do your work, your job of allowing the library to be a place for free expression of all points of view. So I want you to consider very carefully that the legal standards for banning these books are what these folks are trying to set up. And be very clear about what their real objective is here. They are coming after these books and they want them gone, period. Even if they're telling you they're not right now. They're setting the legal groundwork for it, and they are trying to set things up to eliminate points of view and people they don't like. Thank you.
My name is McKenna Durnan. I'm
Speaking your mic, baby.
sorry. My name is McKenna Durnan. I'm a student here in Fairhope. When a book is removed from library shelves, it should be for a legitimate reason, not because someone's being petty. But I mean, what differentiates that? Well, in 1989, a parent who owned a logging company challenged to have the book The Lorax removed because it was anti-logging. Or in 1991, a formal complaint was sent to the Toronto Public Library saying that the book Hop on Pop promoted violence against fathers. I can name countless children's books that are sexually explicit and borderline pornographic. A few examples are Genderqueer, Flamer, Let's Talk About It, My Growing Body, This Day in June, and many others that I've personally read. But it's not the fact that they don't line up with certain religious beliefs that make them worthy of being removed from the children's section. It's the fact that these books are diving much deeper into much more mature topics at such a young age. When it reaches the point that these books are becoming visually explicit or seeming as though they belong in like a high school anatomy book more than a book for 4 to 8-year-olds, we have a whole new problem. When parents take their children to the library, they shouldn't have to worry about protecting their child's innocence. You may also say that removing the books from the children's section is violating the First Amendment. That would only be true if the books were being removed completely from every available source. Peter Sprague of the Family Research Council noted that removing certain books from libraries is about showing discretion and respecting a community's values, and doesn't prevent people from getting those books elsewhere. Quote, "It's an exaggeration to refer this as book banning. There's nothing preventing the books from being sold or written, nothing to prevent parents from buying it or children from reading it. These books are still widely available for you to access. If your local library bans it, then go to the library in the next town or order it off Amazon." Middle Tennessee State University said, "Those advocating a total ban complain typically that the book in question contains graphic violence, expresses disrespect for parents and family, is sexually explicit, exalts evil, lacks literary merit, and is unsuitable for a particular age group. If you so badly want your child to read a book that has been classified as any of the aforementioned terms, then you won't have any problems driving a little further or paying a little extra money to get them that material." Mark Hemingway said, "For better or for worse, these books are still widely available. Your local community has simply decided that finite public resources are not going to be spent disseminating them. I think any kind of information should be available to anyone who wants it. That's our First Amendment right, isn't it? Just because your local community has decided not to use tax dollars to purchase certain books does not mean they're being banned. It simply means that the resources are still available, just at a different location. And I'm not saying the books should be removed because I don't agree with the topics they cover. There's no possible way for all of us to agree on every book in the library. I'm saying that libraries should be able to remove these books from the children's section and replace them with ones that teach these topics in a way that is suitable for children. Books with explicit topics that are available in libraries, especially in the children's section, limit the parents' ability to control what and when their children are exposed to certain things. A large number of these children's books are also explicit to the extent of being in violation of the obscenity laws. The gentleman before me failed to mention a few parts of these obscenity laws. Cornell Law School said, "Obscenity laws are concerned with prohibiting lewd, filthy, or disgusting words or pictures. Indecent materials or depictions, normally speech or artistic expressions, may be..."
Finish
Do you
your
mind?
statement.
Okay, thank you. May be restricted in terms of time, place, and manner, but are still protected by the First Amendment. In April 2002, a lawsuit was filed to declare 2 books, the Genderqueer Memoir and A Court of Mist and Fury, as too obscene for children. Both books go into graphic detail about different sexual acts, and while A Court of Mist and Fury recommended 16 and up, sticks to using words to paint a picture, Genderqueer Memoir is a graphic novel where every act is described in word and image form. Keep in mind this book is recommended for 7th grade and up. Tim Anderson, an attorney who took part in the suit, stated that the lawsuit was never about trying to ban gay literature or trans literature. This is simply saying that these books have really sexually explicit content and it's not appropriate for kids.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Savan Wilson. I live at 120 Oak Bean Court, Fairhope. I'm a retired university professor of library science, and I've had years of experience as a school librarian, but I'll try to be brief tonight. We have an exceptional public library in Fairhope, and we also have exceptional school libraries. We have library professionals who know how to select books, which has already been discussed, have collection development policies in place, and they understand the rights of others to question book selection as they have tonight. And there's a process for that that's in place that I assume would work. Book banning, and I know this isn't book banning, but is a demand to remove a book from a library's collection so no one else can read it. Imagine a world where books are banned and ideas are suppressed. And maybe what we're talking about today is the ideas as much as anything. In such a world, we would lose the perspective and the opportunity to explore diverse perspectives, challenge our own beliefs, and foster critical thinking. Every book, even those with controversial or uncomfortable themes, has the potential to educate, enlighten, and encourage meaningful conversations, even if you don't agree or disagree vehemently with what's in the book. While books have stood at the crossfire of political battles throughout history, today, too, most banned books address issues related to race, gender identity, and sexuality, major points in our cultural wars. Even To Kill a Mockingbird was banned just a number of years ago. Books are the primary way we tell stories, and we learn from people who have witnessed things that we need to do. I'm going to cut some of this out because I've known students and even parents who asked me as a librarian, when I was one, to help select books that would help a student go through a difficult time. Before school and after school and during the lunch period, it's amazing how many children that did not fit in the school environment would be in the library. Kind of a safe place for them. Hiding things that make us uncomfortable or moving them doesn't make them go away. Even if we don't talk about it, racism, sexual assault, genocide, suicide, and many complex issues still exist. I believe deciding what books people should read undermines the principles of democracy and individual liberty. I personally do not want self-appointed book police telling me or my grandchildren now what we can read in our public or school library. The choice of what to read should be left up to the reader. I'll be finishing. Or in the case of children, to parents. My mother selected my books just like you did, many of them. Since many concerns are about children's books, we need to know that parents have the right to determine what their children can read. All parents have those rights. Let's not put the decision-making of what someone else can read where it truly belongs. It belongs to the parent and the child. Their child can have the discussion about what they want them to read. And a good parent can monitor that, certainly. Banning books is not a decision for the City Council. Let's trust our professional Fairhope librarians to make book decisions that meet the needs of our community, our total community, and whatever they call themselves. I've also have had to look up some of these terms, okay? But I'm a little older than most of these people in the room. While providing different perspectives, they can do that to provide us with the hallmark of an informed society, mainly for our whole community, not just someone that believes like we do. Thank you.
Council and Mayor Sullivan, my name is Carter Frigo. I live at 14263 State Highway 181 in Fairhope. I am representing Bayshore Christian School as a senior, along with our Young Americans Foundation Club. And I have a speech that I'd like to present concerning the books that are in the library currently. And I'd like to state that my statements are not to attack any member of the council or any citizen of Fairhope or the library, rather the content that is inside of the library itself. There was a time when adults who gave minors access to obscene materials were determined to be sexual predators subject to criminal prosecution. So what constitutes obscene or pornographic material in the vernacular smut? In 1964, Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart was asked what his test for pornography was, and he famously stated, "I know it when I see it." The view of what constitutes pornography or obscene material may change with the times, but the U.S. Supreme Court has established its test. The Department of Justice published the following in the Citizen's Guide to Federal Law and Obscenity. The U.S. Supreme Court established the test that judges and juries use to determine whether matter is obscene in 3 major cases. And these cases are Miller versus California, Smith versus United States, and Pope versus Illinois. And the three-pronged Miller test is as follows. Point number 1. Whether the average person is applying contemporary adult community standards finds that the matter taken as a whole appeals to prudent interest in examples of erotic, lascivious, abnormal, unhealthy, degrading, shameful, or morbid interest in nudity, sex, or excretion. Point number 2. Whether the average person is applying contemporary adult community standards finds that the matter depicts or describes sexual conduct in a patently offensive way in examples such as ultimate sexual acts, normal or perverted, actual or simulated masturbation, excretory functions, lewd exhibition of the genitals, or sadomasochistic sexual abuse. Whether a reasonable person finds that the matter taken as a whole lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value, and any material that satisfies these tests may be found obscene. And I would like to state some of the books that are currently in the library that may potentially fail this test. And these go as Boy Toy, Doing It, The Female of the Species, The Handmaid's Tale, a graphic novel, The Hate You Give, Last Night at the Telegraph Club, and many others. To conclude, I'm not here to talk about banning books, as many others said, because that is not the notion. The notion is to relocate the books into a different section, because I believe that these members that are, the books are located now are not yet the mental capacity to decide these topics. And I understand the notion for parents to decide, but I believe that these topics are not for a child of that age to determine at the time. And I believe that they should be moved to a older section, and this is something that this is just my family has had roots in Fairhope for many years, and I've loved this city, and I'm speaking to make sure to preserve the beautifulness of this city and the children of this city, and hopefully my children in the future growing up in Fairhope. Thank you for your time.
My name's David Guestpass. I live at 40 Echo Lane. I am a lawyer, and for the past 20 years or so, my practice has been devoted almost entirely to civil rights. First of all we have heard about these books is opinions and accusations. No facts whatsoever. Nothing, certainly, about whether they have redeeming social value. And I would say I have represented many, many protesters, including Black Lives Matter protesters. And if somebody tells you that Black Lives Matter is a fraud, that is an opinion with which I absolutely disagree. Now I would point out to you, the First Amendment allows Nazis to march in Skokie, Illinois, where victims of the Holocaust were living. It allows Brandenburg Klansmen to speak despite the fact that he would provoke other reactions. What is and the point is that speech has to take place where it matters. If these books are removed from a young adult section, which keeps talking about children, a young adult section, then they're being removed from the place where their target audience is. That is suppression. That is not a violation of the First Amendment, regardless of whether they're somewhere else in the library inaccessible to the people they want to reach. And I would point out one last thing. If they are so, as one person told you, so readily available elsewhere, then the question becomes, you get them on Amazon, the question becomes, what about people who can't afford to order books on Amazon? That is what the library is for. That is what the library is for. And for those kids to have access to this material is not just a right of the library, it's an obligation of what a library is and what it's supposed to be. And for this council, with no information whatsoever to act on it, is clearly, I don't think it's going to happen, and I clearly applaud you for not responding. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Dassinger. I live in Fairhope on 115 Kepler. I would like to read you an excerpt from the book called Boy Toy. It says here that in the book summary, a young man recalls the molestation he endured by his teacher when he was 12 years old. The summary of concern states, this book contains explicit sexual activities, including a minor with an adult, sexual nudity, and excessive frequent profanity. Underneath the Boy Toy here, it says that this is classified as a young adult book, and there is a content warning that reads, you are about to access material that may contain content of an adult nature. These files may include pictures and materials that some viewers may find offensive. If you are under the age of 18, or if such material offends you, or if it is legal for you to view these materials, if it is illegal for you to view these materials, please exit now. At the bottom right here, it says not for minors. I'm going to attempt to spell the frequency of the words in the back of the book in the legend here. Profanity. ASS appears in this book 43 times. BITCH appears in this book twice. COCK appears in this book once. DICK appears in this book 14 times. FUCK appears in this book 65 times. GODDAMN appears in this book 19 times. PISS appears in this book 13 times. PRICK appears in this book twice. PUSSY appears in this book once. SHIT appears in this book 61 times. And TIT appears in this book twice. I will now read you an excerpt to the best of my ability here. This is an exchange between a 12-year-old boy and his teacher. The teacher's name is Eve. This is him speaking first. No, I don't want to stop. I couldn't tell her the truth that I felt terrible for what I was doing. Guilty for making her do what I wanted. Guilty for making her do it my way. Guilty for making her cheat on her husband. She came to me and hugged me, our bodies still slightly sticky with sweat. She was a few inches taller than I, and my head nestled perfectly, as if designed that way, she always said, in the hollow of her throat, just above her breasts. In another excerpt, he says to his parents, I've been lying to you. I've been kissing, to his girlfriend, he says, I've been lying to you. I've been kissing Eve, that's the teacher, and I've been having sex, and I've been FUCKING. I don't know how they could have missed it. They must have been complete idiots, a reference to his parents. Later, my 13th birthday was a Friday. Mom and Dad said I was too old for a big party with lots of people. So I invited Zeke to spend the night instead. Of course, I went home with Eve first, and we celebrated in our own way. She gave me a card that says, I love you, but didn't sign it. I read it as we lay in bed together. Another excerpt. I sit on my bed for a minute, still feeling Rachel's kiss on my lips, my teeth, my tongue. Rachel is his girlfriend. I'm hard. I want to beat off, but I'm dead tired, exhausted mentally and physically. Forgiveness happens while you're asleep, while you're dreaming, while you're in line at the coffee shop, while you're showering, eating, farting, jerking off. I give him a quick version. I apologized. She accepted. I don't get into the kissy face SHIT because I don't even know how I feel about it yet. I don't want to think about Rachel that way, but a couple of kisses have a way of cementing a girl in your glands as a sexual possibility. Rachel doesn't groan like Eve did. She makes little sounds that are almost like whimpers, but somehow sexy. I'm as hard as a rock the whole time, and I don't want her to know, but I think that's probably impossible. Briefly, I'll say as a mother, I don't want my children groomed by my local library.
Firstly, I would like to thank you, Chairman and council members, for the constant thankless work that you do. And I would also like to thank everyone here for being proactive and trying to seek change in the local battlefields that matter. If the target demographic of pornographic content is minors, I believe that there needs to be some serious moral compass reconsiderations. Specifically, our moral standards. Legally, the standard of what is harmful to minors may differ from the standards applied to adults. Harmful material for minors include any communication consisting of nudity or sex and is patently offensive to prevailing standards in the adult community with respect to what is suitable material for minors and lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for minors. In addition to facing imprisonment and fines, convicted offenders of federal obscenity laws involving minors may also be required to register as sex offenders. Furthermore, in some circumstances, obscenity violations, including minors, may also be subject to prosecution under federal child pornography laws, which yield severe statutory penalties. The most common opposition to restricting access by minors, persons less than 18 years of age, persons less than 18 years of age or of majority to sexually explicit material, is it violates their First Amendment or freedom of speech rights. This is a specious argument on its face, as minors are treated differently under the law. They don't possess the same rights and privileges afforded to adults. Minors or children can't purchase or consume in public alcohol or cigarettes. They can't operate a motor vehicle subject to local or state age restrictions. They can't execute contracts or own certain classes of property or be sued. They cannot vote. They cannot consent to the most menial treatment. They are treated differently in criminal matters. Additionally, the movie industry adopted standards decades ago to warn the public and restrict minors from viewing certain films. Libraries have become the new frontier as the first line of cultural indoctrination of young minds in the name of progressivism. You can lead the way back to making the community library a safe place of childhood dreams and adventures. Also, I am appalled that it has come to this point that we are having to move sexually explicit content out of the children's section in a library. Most commonly, I've heard that it's up to the parent to decide. Not necessarily. Not all parents are going to be watching their children like a hawk at the library because they're under the assumption that it's a library, that the considerations for children there are that they are in fact minors. Again, thank you all. You do so much work that goes unappreciated and unnoticed, and it's amazing that people volunteer to do this. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jada Pryor. I live on Twin Echo Court here in Fairhope, and I didn't prepare anything. I wanted to come and observe because this town means so much to me. My oldest daughter's named Jubilee, and that's how special it is to me. I moved here after seeing a Rick Bragg quote in the window of the bookstore, and definitely left a note to him that embarrasses me to this day. I don't think he got it. But when we moved here, what called me to Fairhope was that I believed it to be a city of storytellers, writers, creatives, and Rick Bragg. I believed it to be a safe place, a place where I could raise my family. I have 3 children. A place where they were free to be the creative, artistic individuals they are. I love it. And when we did move here, knowing no one, years ago, the first place I went was the library. I felt shaky. I felt unsure. And as I said, I knew no one. The library, particularly Miss Julia and Miss Allison, were a saving grace to both my family, to my children, as they continue to be. As I look around this room tonight, I notice that the teens that would be here in support of all that Miss Allison does, they're not here because they're with her right now at a teen program that she provides. My daughter is a member of the Library Youth Council. Through that possibility with Miss Allison, she has learned community leadership. She has put on plays. She has learned, interpersonal skills. She has grown through the influence of Miss Allison and the library. Furthermore, as a lover of Jesus, if we are to bring our faith into this discussion, I ask that you consider how privileged you are that books at the library are your biggest fight. I ask that you consider how blind you are that your children would find a random book on a shelf of thousands rather than use the iPhones that most of them have to Google any of the information that they need. I love this town, I love my babies, and I love Jesus. And the best way that I show that is to not attack people in public forums that are using their lives to be of service to others, including speaking out for the freedom of what people read. I want to stay here my entire life. And in my experience, there's a new Fairhope that is different than perhaps the old one, and I like the way that one's going. I like to believe that I didn't move here in vain, that I was right, that we're still a place of creativity, freedom, storytelling, and I also like to believe that I'm still going to bump into Rick Bragg at the bookstore and have the moment. Thank you for hearing me tonight.
Can you state your name?
Yeah, I did. Jada Pryor. Thank you.
Thank you. Address? Did she give her address?
My name is Max Miller. I'm a senior here in Baldwin County. I am the co-founder of Bayshore Christian Schools YAF chapter, 10613 County Road 1. At the executive branch in Alabama, thankfully, Governor Ivey has an interest in the reform of our public library system, which may also, hopefully, include the same reform for school libraries as well. At the legislative branch, a legislator has become public in a cry for reform. Local libraries need to have guidelines that represent their community, not these woke standards going on nationwide. The legislature has the power of the purse. One legislator continued to publicly state, one way to encourage libraries to remove or relocate inappropriate books would be to defund or deny grants to the libraries that continue to affiliate with the ALA. To quote a statewide leader in Alabama, the evidence is overwhelming that public libraries are no longer safe places for children and young adults. A grassroots organization has provided public commentary to the Alabama Public Library Services Executive Board and asked that Alabama separate itself from the American Library Association. The American Library Association, the ALA, continues to affirm and defend the president of the ALA, who has publicly declared himself as a Marxist and celebrated the ideals and tenets of Marxism, which violates the values of the people of Alabama. The American Library Association openly advocates and educates public librarians to go against the will of their patrons, the taxpayers of which they claim to serve, in their curation of materials under the guise of protecting against censorship. The American Library Association promotes the false notion that accessibility and availability are interchangeable and that both are essential to protect against censorship, meaning they believe, promote, and protect the notion that even minors should have unrestricted access to sexually explicit materials. The American Library Association's definition of censorship is in opposition to the contemporary community standards of Alabamians and the Alabama Anti-Obscenity Enforcement Act. I believe censorship in part concerns the availability of various viewpoints to the public, but does not mean that all materials regarding every viewpoint should be accessible to minors. The highly impressionable minds of children must be protected and diligently shaped by their parents and guardians. Exposing children to materials regarding radical gender ideologies and sexually explicit and pornographic content crosses the line of decency. No taxpayer-funded entity should permit children to access such obscene and divisive materials without parental consent. As a concerned citizen of Alabama, I urge you to take immediate action to end our association, participation, and use of the far left Marxist organization that is the American Library Association, effective immediately.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Steve Christensen from Pier Avenue, And it's good to see all the young people out tonight, regardless of their viewpoints. I had a great gift when I was a young person, about 10 or 12. I had an hour bus ride to and from school every day. That doesn't sound like much, but it gave me the opportunity to read and read voraciously when I was 10 and 12 years old. I read Steinbeck, Herman Wouk, you name it. And you can ask anybody that knows me today, and I've not become a womanizer, an alcoholic, an abuser of anything. There's great value in literature, and with regard to any proposal that might be on the table to restrict intellectual property, I strongly urge you to condemn that. And I would add that for some of us, faith is stronger than homophobia. And as was quoted in the invocation, goodness and love should prevail. And those are my only comments. Thank you very much.
Good evening, sirs. My name is Donna Riley Line. I live at 19270 Greeno Road in Fairhope. And I'm a military brat many years ago, but the place that was a haven for me was the local library. We searched out the local library every time we moved. And I guess I just love libraries because of that. Any rate, libraries gave me, let's see, The Grapes of Wrath, Of Mice and Men, To Kill a Mockingbird. Are you getting a theme here? These were all books that have been banned or questioned or people want to remove from the library. Are the books in question now great literature? I don't know. But they have to be available to everybody. People learn from what they read. And I also have to ask, where are the parents? If your child has something from the library that you object to, take it away. Bring it back to the library. You don't have to ban it. But I, as a parent, of course my children are very well grown by now and can make their own decisions, I may want them to have this information. Maybe, maybe not. But the choice has to be there. We have a First Amendment for a reason. We need to stick with the American Library Association, and thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Miller. I live at 10613 County Road 1. As a teenager who constantly visits the library, I would love to tell you all, I do not want to see these books in our library influencing young children. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Paul Moreno. I live at 9174 Feather Trail. And I'm happy to see that so many people here are now promoting the First Amendment and free speech and alternate ideas at the library, because it's, in my experience, when we tried to show the documentary film 2000 Mules, we were refused. And I would like to take it a lot further. I think we ought to be having discussions at the library and showing films on things like, are vaccines safe, and a whole number of other controversial topics. So if we're really open to free speech and no censorship, then the next time I call the library to try to set something like that up, I don't expect to be told no. And if I do, I'd like to come back here and talk to you all again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauren Kress. I live at 8540 Bishop Road in Fairhope. I didn't expect to come up here tonight, so I will give it my best shot. I'm a mom. I have, just not for right now. He's reading. He can only get the higher volumes of some of the graphic novels that he's reading on Libby as an ebook. So that's what he's been doing while all this has been going on. But anyway, so I have a 13-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 24-year-old. So they have grown up in libraries. I grew up in libraries. I spent my entire life loving the library. I have taken my children to the library for their entire lives. And I'm a single mom. I live on the other side of 98. So I can't afford to go to Barnes & Nobles and buy a book every time it's not available somewhere. I can't afford to buy it on Amazon every time it's not available somewhere. The public library gives my children a freedom and an access to books that I can't afford to give them. And that is priceless. So really the biggest thing that I wanted to say is that I understand that the people who have come up here are worried about the things that are in the library that are concerning to them and that they don't want their children to consume. I get that. I restrict my child's access to social media. I restrict his access to certain things that are on television because I feel like that content is not appropriate for him. And you are allowed as a parent to do that. That being said, there is nothing that my child is going to pick up in the library that is going to change the values and morals that I teach at home. They are not so superficial that I cannot defend them against something that he picks up in the library. And if whatever you believe in and the values and morals that you teach at home are so shaky that a simple book from the library can undermine your entire moral foundation, that's a home problem. That's a you problem. That's a family problem. That's not a library problem. And the librarians are not there to uphold your values and your morals and help you parent your children. They are just there to have the library available to everyone. So, anyways, that's all I got to say.
Good evening. My name's Doug Greengard, and I live on Wakefield Avenue in Fairhope. By the way, masks have been proven to be totally ineffective. So I just want you to know, you can wear them, but they're simply a show. And pertaining to the library, my wife and I went to the library for a HOA meeting some time ago, and were absolutely astonished. There were books on tables that were more pornographic, if that is possible, than any magazine depicting people in sexual positions, and these were in the children's area. We simply walked through. You don't have to believe it. It's the truth. We saw that. So I would encourage each and every one of you, unless they go ahead and pull this material, we were in there as recently as a couple of weeks ago. There in the teen section and in the young adult section were books that were unbelievably pornographic, describing and showing in great detail with pictures people, young people in positions. I'm not going to go into any further detail. It would be encouraging for all of you to go and see this for yourselves. That is all I have to say. I'm not saying that these books should be banned. Perhaps they have some redeeming value someplace in hell. But I will tell you that they should not be available for children. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen and Mayor. My name is Stephanie Durnan, and I live on Hemlock Drive in Fairhope. You may not know this, but there are 2 card catalogs in the library for Fairhope. One is labeled for adults, and one is labeled for children. For the children's catalog, there's a cute interface to use when they're searching for books. My expectation as a parent was that the different search interface from the adult was different from the adults, also provided a buffer from the adult books and content that was available on the other side of the library. Boy, was I wrong. A simple search within the Children's Library catalog will even reveal the location of the Kama Sutra from the children's catalog. We have better content firewalls and web filters at our public schools. Any sexually explicit books accessible by children is a problem, no matter with whom or by whom or to whom. A common sense solution is to just shift those books over to the adult section and keep that content only searchable under the adult catalog system, which is what I thought my children had access to, the children's section. This is not about banning or censoring books. This is about keeping adult material and pornography sheltered from the eyes of our community's most vulnerable citizens, our children. There are just some things that you can't unsee. Those parents who want their children to have access to pornography are free to go and buy it for themselves without the use of our tax dollars. The library is no longer the library of our childhood. It is now the purveyor of obscene material to our children that was once relegated to back rooms or delivered by mail in brown paper wrappings. Our council members are at a crossroads, and I pray that you decide wisely for the benefit of our children. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Janet Hinton. I live at 373 Francilla Circle in Fairhope. And thank you, Councilman and Mayor, for letting us speak. I have my library card here. I also have my iPhone here. And if parents don't think your children, if the books are taken away or moved from a library, if they can't get access to anything on this iPhone, you're sorely mistaken. And I moved here because I participated in an art festival, and 11 years ago I moved here after I retired from a career of teaching. And this town was founded by people, I think 28 people in the 1890s came here to establish a city where there was freedom, that there were no monopolies, that people could live and thrive. And evidently it has, because of the census and the growing numbers of people, 22,000+ in the last census. So there's something here that attracts people. There are a lot of writers here, a lot of artists here, retired teachers. In fact, the library we have here is one of the largest and best for a town this size anywhere. And I choose to read certain books and certain books I don't. But part of the First Amendment, freedom of speech, is also freedom of written word. And if parents want to control, parents can control and should what their children read. They don't have any right to say what anyone else's children reads. And so if their children get books that they don't think are appropriate, then that's on them. But I tell you, they're reading a lot more than what's in our public library on their phones. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Gibson. I live at 124 Club Drive, right down from the new pickleball courts. I can tell you how early they get out there and how late they stay.
Make sure you put your tennis skirt on, okay?
I moved here in 1974, and I might have been here a month before one of the library board members that I had met at church had me down there painting the new addition to the library on Summit Street. And I have volunteered at the library all these years, and I've spent years shelf reading the teen section. And that means going in there and putting it in alphabetical order,
because, you know, teens, like little kids and adults, because I'm doing large print adults now, will pick that book up and put it there because they've changed their mind. So I have been a long-time volunteer at that library. My children grew up in the library. They didn't take a book home that I didn't look at. That's what parents do. We make choices for our children to teach them how to make choices as they grow up. There are things that I might not want them to read when they're 16 years old, but they've got to learn. There are things that I'm just short of 77 that I'm not going to read, and the big seller Colleen Hoover is one of them. But I get books, I bring them home, I check them out, I start reading them. I don't like them, I take them back. There was a time when this English teacher thought I had to finish all of them. But you don't have to do that. But you do, if you are the parent or the guardian of a child, you are in charge of making sure that child learns how to make selections in life, how that child learns how to get along with others. You are that person that's in charge of teaching that child. You don't want to do it, fine, but then don't blame somebody else for whatever that child does. My children are now adults, and my daughter has an adult children, but she still wants to tell them how to do things. This is what we do as parents. We parent. We parent. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I'm here on a different note. I'd like to appeal to the City Council because I'm a shop owner here in Fairhope, and in the last month, we've had 2 incidents where we've had an individual that is sketchy. I've called the police. To date, I have not gotten a report. To date, I have not had anybody come by. The unfortunate thing is my shop is in the French Quarter. I've had to close my shop now on Friday evenings because of this. I don't have the amount of employees because we are a small business, but I've not seen the police presence. I've called, I've asked. I was out of town Labor Day weekend and another incident occurred, and I was told that they were going to send officers down on Friday and Saturday during the time that we were open in the evening. We still get a fair amount of people coming through there, but they didn't show. So I had to close again in concern for my employees because I could only hire sometimes high schoolers, and some of those high schoolers are females. Because of that situation, we've had to close. And I think it's unfair. I had a request. The officer on duty told me that they would go and ask if they could do that. I didn't understand that because as a taxpayer and as an owner of Fairhope store, I would believe that they would come and do that. Now, I was told that they would do a drive-by. I'm sorry, a drive-by is not going to work in the French Quarter unless you got a vehicle that's going to get in there. So I'm appealing to y'all to request that we start having police presence downtown, not only on First Friday, because I still have not seen it, and I've asked, but on the weekends. Because, I mean, believe it or not, we do have a fair amount of people that still come to this town on the weekends, and because a lot of shops are closed, I get a lot of business. And I'm not advocating that, you know, I want the business. I'm just saying if you want people to come back, then we need to have some kind of presence down there. I saw police presence during COVID. I've seen it during the arts and crafts, but other than that, I don't see it. And I've been told that we have a fair amount of police officers on hire that we could do this. I mean, it just takes 1 or 2 people to come through there. So I'm appealing to you guys and Mayor to try and look into this because it is costing me a fair amount of revenue because I'm having to close now. Thank you for your time.
So what, can you go to specifically what happened at the store? You said sketchy. What happened?
The first incident, an individual came in and would not leave after they asked him to because he was just mulling through there. He wasn't buying anything, and there was a young female. The second incident that occurred, the individual got right up to the register and started asking the young lady her age, where she lived, whether he should stay in Fairhope because he wanted to get to know her. She had to call her parents because unfortunately we were out of town, and I didn't get the word until after the fact. Now, I've told my employees, dial 911 when you feel like you're threatened. I do have a camera. Unfortunately, that still didn't help. But by the time the police were told, it was after the fact. And so the young lady quit immediately. So I don't have a long list of kids that can come work for me, and it's hard. And then I'm having to do the business, me and my wife. So I'm just asking that y'all look into this and try and assign some officers to walk the beat. I mean, it's not that big of a town. And I would believe that we'd want our Fairhope to be safe, and especially since we're near a park. That's the other thing. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, one second. Got it.
Stacy Sheehan Wilson, 54 North Church Street, Fairhope. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I am a former public school English teacher. I'm also Catholic school educated. So I appreciate the students turning out, and I appreciate the position. But I also have a wider view of what freedom looks like when you're talking about what people have access to. And what prompted me to come up is the individual comment publicly attacking an individual choice that doesn't harm anyone, but simply wearing a mask in public. That person isn't infringing on my benefit at all to do that. And so I certainly don't want that person deciding what might be considered offensive, because I was really offended by that, personally. Secondly, I work at an independent bookstore. I do not in any way represent them today, but I sell a lot of books that offend me. I order a lot of books that offend me. I think they speak about racism. I think they talk about intolerance. I think they prompt our divide. And I order them anyway, because they didn't ask me what my opinion is. They just asked me to order the book. And as an independent business, that person obviously wants that, and they have the right to have it without my opinion. And I know that one can say, well, that's an adult book, but I'm just letting you know, this doesn't come only for a library situation. It comes within a bookstore as well. So the comment earlier about you can find it at a bookstore, not necessarily. And to that point, we host different events in town, and I would have people come and speak to me regarding a large event we had for Brian Kilmeade. And people said, how could you have him? And I'd say, it's an independent bookstore. And then we had a poster with a Louise Penny book with Hillary Rodham Clinton. And people came to me and said, how dare you present that book to the public? We're an independent bookstore. The library offers an opportunity for people to make a decision about what they're choosing to read. When I was a teacher, I had a ton of books on my bookshelves or on my counter available for kids to read. I told parents I had them. I told kids I had them. And I said, if you know you're reading something your parents don't approve of, that's on you if your parents come and speak to me. Quit reading the book. If your child checks out a book from a public library that you know does not support your parental parameters and your family values, then it is also on the child, and they have a responsibility to have decided to put that away. Chris Crutcher writes very controversial books back in the day. He may not be as well known about rape, incest, terrible things, and abuse that happened to kids. And he said at a young adult conference to teachers who were very offended by him, I am not writing for you. But if you think there's a child in your class that is not a kid I'm writing to, then you need to be educated. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is BK Gray, 697 Cedar Avenue. I'm a teacher at a public school here in Baldwin County. Thank you for having this tonight. Quickly, I want to say I love the idea of the fitness down by the bay, down by the pier. That'd be great. I'd also like to say that myself and my family have been members of the colony since 1913. We love the library. We have a 2-year-old that we take twice a week at least, and we love that we can expose her to different lifestyles. And we love the library the way it is, and I don't want to leave tonight's meeting without knowing how we go forward on this. Like, does it work? Like, do you guys, I'm pretty sure no one who came tonight changed their mind. A group came to ban books, and a group came to defend books, and no one changed their mind. So what do you guys do now to protect the library, to keep it the way it is?
Quite honestly, we don't have any input on what the library carries as books. The library has a board. A request was made to me to put this on the agenda, and my response was, this is not a city council issue. This is a library issue. The library has a board, and I would expect everybody who has expressed an opinion tonight will express that opinion to the board for the board to make that decision. This is public participation for non-agenda, sometimes non-city council items. And so while we appreciate everybody being here and expressing their opinion, it doesn't make it a city council issue.
Great. All right, well, we love the library the way it is. Please don't change, and we'll do our best to keep supporting it.
I'm Ron Allen. I no longer live in Fairhope. I live in Spanish Fort. It's 500 Spanish Fort Boulevard, Unit 56, Spanish Fort, Alabama. I'm a lawyer, but so be it. I'm not going to hang myself on that issue. This issue has been around since I was a little kid. The same issue, the same arguments, the same attacks, and it was my children. It was an issue. It's an issue today. Get over it. Life goes on. I believe in freedom. I don't think the city council should ever get involved in this kind of issue. If you don't like what the library board does, get on the board. Thank you.
Last call for public participation.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Hold on, we got one.
Oh.
I will close public participation. Okay, let's just hang tight 1 second, guys.
We don't.
Okay,
Do what next meeting? It doesn't have to be on the agenda next meeting. No, it doesn't, Marcus. Marcus. We don't have to put it on the agenda next meeting.
Yeah.
No. Huh?
Yeah, that's.
So it's supposed. So I can ask for an extended postponement. Yeah,
All right.
okay. got it.
All right, council, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
So moved. Yeah.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.